What did you think of Senator Rand Paul and his filibuster?
Well, I think that he was very smart in taking an issue that crystallized Americans. I mean, it brought everyone together, being it ACLU and Code Pink to the libertarian side, to talk about, civil liberties and constitutionality. Shame on, Senators McCain and Graham, who, when he was doing that filibuster, they were out at a swanky dinner with the president, and nothing came of it. I mean, so I don't know what they were doing. But then to come back and criticize him for doing that, that's the thing that we have to do. The next generation conservative leadership, we got to have guys who will pass the baton on.
But do you think this signifies maybe a break and a changing of the leadership from the old guard to maybe the Rand Paul libertarian wing of the Republican Party to take the party forward?
No, I would not say so much about the ideology, but it does represent a schism in people that, are somewhat, beheld to perspectives of the old instead of, embracing that of the new. And if we're serious about next generation, then we've got to have people that are willing to move on.
And what I'd like to see is a more of a contrast of ideology between the Republicans and the Democrats. I mean, you got Paul Ryan is out there with his new budget.
Sure.
And he is promising to take this enormous bloated federal government and grow it by 3.5% a year, and that's seen as an alternative to the administration's desires to grow that government by 5% a year. Instead of arguing over who wants to grow government the least, how about a Republican Party that says government is too big, we want to actually make it smaller. We want to reduce government so that we have more freedom and more prosperity.
Well, I think what we have to understand is the process of incrementalism. At least we have a budget being proposed that balances in 10 years. When you look
but
at
it doesn't
the other
actually
side,
balance. It's smoke and mirrors. It's based on rosy economic assumptions of growth and inflation and interest rates that don't have a prayer of actually coming true.
But at least it talks about the most important thing. 62% of our budget is on the mandatory spending side. It does tackle that. It does recognize that that's a problem. Now, if you're talking about the big picture things, yes, we need to have people that have the visions, that recognize there's some government agencies that are, we don't need to have around. It really is about going back to looking at the fundamental roles and responsibilities of government as by the Constitution and getting it in that right way.
Yeah.
And you're right. We don't create a contrast between conservatism and liberal progressivism. We don't make a contrast between the Opportunity Society and the Dependency Society, and that's what you have.
Yeah,
to have
I think it's Obama light, and it's not going to work. I mean, why would you drink Diet Coke if you can have the real Coke? I mean,
and that's why we have continued to lose when you put up the John McCain's, the Mitt Romneys. We have to be very honest about that. My problem is this: we have to stop, opening up the New York Times and the Washington Post and letting them define who we should be and who we should pick as far as our candidates. Ronald Reagan was successful because of one basic thing: this is who I am, this is what I believe in, it's best for America, get on board. When you give people a clear choice, they make the right choice.
Yeah, although unfortunately a lot of people are going to choose a check from the government over freedom because they're maybe afraid of having that responsibility.
But if you go back to the great quote from Margaret Thatcher, the problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money.
Yeah.
We've got to explain to them that it's not going to be there forever. And furthermore, it's an affront to your sense of honor and respect and dignity that you're just sitting home and you're becoming a slave to a federal government.
Well, we've already run out of other people's money. That's why we're printing it.
Absolutely.
But eventually, I don't know that they're going to run out of ink, but the money's not going to have any value, so it's not going to do anybody any good.
Ergo, now we take something like quantitative easing, and how do we crystallize it for people to understand when you're printing money, you're causing inflation, and therefore you're raising gasoline prices, you're raising food prices. That's how we take these big picture things, and we got to bring it down to the personal anecdotal stories.
But the government tries to lie, and they tell us that there is no inflation, even though it's there, and they celebrate the big increase in retail sales this week, when the only reason people are spending more money is because stuff costs more.
And you also have household incomes down by almost 4%.
And savings are plunging. The savings rate now is lower than it was before the 2008 financial crisis.
What you just brought up is what we come back to again. The next generation of leader that has the honor, integrity, and character becomes a trusted person that the American people can turn to and say, I believe this guy.
But that's why I don't think, you talk about incrementalism, I don't think we have time for that. Maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but I think we need bold, drastic action. We need real contrast. And the American people need to know, if we dramatically cut government spending, that there's something that they have to gain. They can actually have lower taxes if we shrink government. If we make government dramatically smaller by massive cuts, then we can free up those resources, return them to the private sector, and have tax cuts that mean something.
I thoroughly agree with you, but I'm going to close on this little anecdote. In the United States Navy, when I went over and did a joint exchange assignment, it takes 5 miles to turn around an aircraft carrier. It's a pretty big aircraft carrier. You don't want to turn it too fast and then you tip the whole thing over. But at least lay out a vision, a course, and an azimuth that you want to set this aircraft carrier on.
All right, hey, thanks a lot. Unfortunately, I think that carrier is about to collapse and sink to the bottom of the ocean. But
we're not done yet. This is America, real resilient.
Well, let's hope so.
Hope's not a method.
Thank you.
Thank you.
855-4SCHIFF is the number to call. If you want to call up, we got open lines. We'll be right back. Stick around.
The Peter Schiff Show.